Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Wednesday again. It's incredible how fast Wednesday approaches every week. I feel like we just did this, right? My name is Keith. I'm your meditation teacher tonight and always on this channel. There's no other one teaching on this channel. I'll be your meditation teacher. If you haven't met me before, one thing you might notice is I love getting questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. It's one of the beauties of it being a live stream. And so you can ask your questions in real time and I will answer them. It's important, I think, when learning meditation to have that opportunity because everyone learns differently, right? I might use an analogy that you're like, that does not connect with me at all, Keith. I'm sorry. It's not working. And then you ask me to rephrase it, and maybe I'll rephrase it in a better way. Mary, I know, right? It's always so fast, right? Hey, Patricia. Every week on this channel, we talk about something meditation related, and then we do a meditation on that topic. But prior to investigating this kind of meditation topic and doing that more specific meditation, we always start at the beginning. What is meditation? How does it work? Why does it work? How do I do it? All those questions that if you're new, you're probably asking yourself. So if this is your first time, don't worry. This is going to be a great introduction to meditation for you, and we'll start with the basics, right? Antonio, you wish this was on Zoom? Why? I'm just curious. I do one-on-one classes on Zoom. Generally, I do these like free classes on YouTube just because it's a little more accessible. Anyone can kind of pop in. So that's my reason for it. Oh, so you could see everyone. Oh, so Antonio, so you know what I've been thinking about doing some workshops. I've been like kind of toying around with the idea. So that would be something that I would do over Zoom or something like that. So everyone could kind of see each other if they wanted to, right? Cool. Thank you. We'll start by introducing meditation. This is your first time. Cool. Perfect. No prerequisites needed. And then we'll do a short breathing meditation together. And after that short breathing meditation, kind of get everyone settled, we'll get into our topic. And today's topic is one of I think one of the most interesting ones that I have learned through meditation. It's about recognizing and acting on inspiration and specifically like expanding what we consider to be an inspiring thought, right? I know maybe you're like, that sounds very out there. Well, I think there'll be some cool tips in here for you guys, and then we'll do a meditation on that topic after. Cool. Janice, always look forward to this every week. Me too, Janice. Thank you very much. I'm glad you are here. Okay, so again, maybe if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, no big deal. I'll give you my email towards the end of today's session. You can email me any questions that come up. So if you forget something, don't worry about it. You could ask me at any time. All right. So when we think about meditation, there's only one image that comes to mind. We're all thinking about the exact same thing right now when we say the word meditation, and that is somebody cross-legged on the floor with their eyes closed, right? Like that's it. This is a way to meditate. Dan, what's up, dude? This is a way to meditate, right? It is not the definition of meditation. It is not like, if I don't sit cross-legged on the floor, it's not, doesn't count, doesn't work or something like that. All that meditation is it's this technique that we use to familiarize our mind with something. Like that's kind of like the broad stroke of what meditation is. And that might be like a weird thing to think about because we don't really, the phrase familiarize our mind. You don't say that in real life, but we become familiar with things all the time. And we can see that there's a very specific benefit towards being familiar with something. And that benefit is that it starts to come more naturally to you, right? So think about something that you're familiar with. Driving, walking, tying your shoe, all these things that we've been doing our whole life. At this point, we've had so much practice doing those things that we could say they're like second nature. They come naturally to us, right? If I were to ask you to go drive right now, you could do it without really putting much thought into it, right? Everything about driving, the mental components, physical, like awareness, all these things that are a big part of driving and driving safely are something that you're extremely used to. And so it comes pretty naturally. It wasn't always that way, right? Whether it was walking or driving or whatever, anything you've ever learned. At some point, it didn't come naturally. It was new. Your mind was not familiar with it. Your body was not familiar with it. Something like tying your shoe is kind of a fun one to think about, right? It's very challenging back in the day. Now, not so much. And the only difference, it's not like they improved shoelaces or something, The only difference is that, what? You're more familiar with it. You've had practice, right? It is habitual at this point, right? So the same is true for mental, like mind states, which is usually what we focus on with regards to meditation. So let's take something like being peaceful or relaxing, right? That is like probably the main reason why people start to meditate. They want to be more relaxed. They want to be less stressed. They want to be more peaceful, right? And we can sometimes think like, oh, meditation equals relaxation. If I meditate, I will be relaxed. Right. But meditation itself does not relax you. It doesn't make you peaceful. What it does is it is a way of teaching you to become very intimately familiar with your relaxed self, right? So this is this version of you that's, calm, cool, collective, thinking objectively about your problems, like, no sweat, right? For some of us, probably most of us, that version of us doesn't come out as often as we would like it to. It's not because we're incapable. It's just because we have not had a lot of practice being super relaxed all the time. Life is very busy. We kind of have a tendency to go, go, go. We have a tendency to stress. And so our mind has had a lot of practice doing those things. And meditation is this way of starting to make some choices about what you want your mind to be familiar with, so that way those things can start to come more naturally to you, right? Now, it works both ways. We think about this kind of superpower we have of becoming familiar with things. Think about like anger. It does not take much effort for us to get angry. I have never met somebody who said, hold on a second, I have to try to get angry over that thing that you said. Right? It just happens. But patience, there's a lot of examples where we have to be like, hey, I need a moment. I need to step back and, let some time pass. And like, it takes effort, right? So this is a good example of how whatever our mind is most used to doing seems to crop up more readily. We get frustrated a lot. We've had a lot of practice getting frustrated. We've had a lot more practice getting frustrated than being super patient. And so the good news is that this is all learned behavior, and the beauty of meditation, the promise, the gift of it is that we can train our mind to become familiar with the things that we want it to. And it's going to take time. Meditation is a very slow burn. You're not going to leave here today and, be on cloud 9 and you might be feeling nice and relaxed, but tomorrow maybe something will happen. It'll annoy you. It's a slow burn. It's a practice. It's a training, right? So that's all well and good, but how do we go about meditating, right? What we're going to do together first here is breathing meditation. You probably have heard of this. It is more formally known as single-pointed concentration, which the definition is kind of in the phrase. We're focusing on one thing, so we're not multitasking. We are all, I don't care who you are, you're an expert multitasker. You've been practicing multitasking your whole life. You take a drink while you're talking to somebody at dinner, that's multitasking. And so our mind is extremely familiar with multitasking. So much so that when we purposely try to not multitask, sometimes our mind is like, hey, think about that. Hey, I should be doing more. Hey. And so with meditation, this is where sometimes we can find it to be challenging. But it is not that we are incapable of meditating. It's not that this person's a very good meditator, this person can't. It's just what your mind is familiar with. Your mind tends to gravitate towards what it's familiar with, right? So we are going to do a short breathing meditation together that is aimed at getting everyone familiar with how we go about training in this kind of technique of concentration, of familiarizing ourselves with something. From a purely instructional standpoint, meditation is pretty straightforward. We're going to be doing 3 steps, right, here today, right now. Step 1 is we're going to make a choice to focus single-pointedly on our breath. I know that's weird, but this is a good practice of like setting an intention of what we want to do. Mind, you're gonna focus on your breath, and that's it, right? If we don't kind of acknowledge this, make this promise to ourselves, you can't blame our mind for getting off track. We never had a plan in the first place. So we're going to intentionally choose to do this. Right? We're going to intentionally choose to focus single-pointedly on our breath. And then whenever you notice yourself kind of drifting a bit, you're thinking about something you got to do later or something happened earlier, something happened 3 years ago, right? Whenever you notice that happen, no big deal. We're just going to be like, not right now to those thoughts. That's like kind of what we're going to say internally to ourselves. Not right now. We're not saying these thoughts are bad. We're not saying they're dumb. We're not saying they're unimportant. We're just saying, not right now. I've decided to focus on my breath. That's what I'm doing. And then we're going to guide our attention back to our breath. So we choose to focus single-pointedly on our breath. We notice when our attention drifts, we bring our attention back. And we're not judging ourselves. There's no barometer of success here. Meditation isn't about never getting distracted. It's about noticing when you are and being able to get back on track. You wander off the hiking trail a little bit. Oh, it was a pretty little, what was the example I used the other, a blueberry bush. Oh, hey, look at that cute little blueberry bush. You wander off the trail. Oh, I wandered. I better get back, right? That's our goal. So just get better at noticing when we're distracted and then guide ourselves back. Okay? Cool. And the beauty of this is as a result, we're going to start to relax a little bit because all of the busyness in our mind, do this, worry about this, the project coming up at work, all that stuff, it's going to fade because there's no room for it. We have a finite amount of space in our mind or a finite amount of concentration. And if we're focusing all of that concentration onto our breath, there's no room to concentrate on those other things, right? So let's give it a shot. What do you say? Okay. So you may notice I'm sitting in a chair and I'm not cross-legged on the floor. You can sit however you want. It does not matter. You want to lay down? Lay down. You want to sit on the floor because you like that? Sit on the floor. You want to sit in a chair? Cool. You have, standing desk? Stand. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you're relatively comfortable. And you can go ahead and close your eyes. And I'm going to guide all of us through about a 5-minute breathing meditation just to get everyone a little bit settled and relaxed. Okay. Whenever we start a meditation, the first thing we do is check in with ourselves. I want you to ask yourself right now, how am I feeling in this exact moment? What is my mind up to? Maybe you're tired from a long day. Maybe you're feeling energetic. Maybe you're happy. Maybe you're a little melancholy. Whatever your experience is right now is perfectly fine. We're not doing anything about it. We're just noticing. This is an act also known as mindfulness. It's a word we hear a lot. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your own thoughts moment to moment for the very intentional purpose of being able to respond skillfully to your own thoughts. So take a moment and check in. Having done that, you can now make a promise to yourself. You are going to intentionally choose to focus single-pointedly, exclusively on your own breath. Breathing in and breathing out very gently, very naturally. You do not need to take big, deep breaths. You do not need to forcefully exhale air. However you normally breathe, that's what I want you to do. In and out, very gently and naturally. As you begin to settle into your chair or cushion, feel yourself sink in to your seat. We are single-pointedly concentrated on our breath, following every moment of every breath. Staying with the air as it enters our body, fills our lungs, and then following that same air as it exits, dissipating back into the atmosphere. Breathing in, breathing out. Very gently and very naturally. At some point, you will notice your attention drifting. Maybe you're thinking about something that happened earlier today, or a task that you have to do later or tomorrow. Whenever you notice that this has happened, we can just very gently say, not right now, to these thoughts. We will get to them later. And then guide your focus back to your breath. Back to breathing in, breathing out. Gently, naturally, as you begin to sink in even more into your chair, cushion, your seat. Smooth, gentle breaths. A genuine interest in breathing. Nothing else matters right now, just you and your breath, following the air as it enters and exits your body. Breathing in and breathing out. Very gently, very naturally. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath anytime you notice it drifting. This 3-step process, choosing to focus single-pointedly on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and then being able to guide your attention back to breathing. That is meditation. You right now are practicing meditation. You are training your mind to access its natural peaceful state, to become familiar with its own peacefulness. You are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. And right now, the only thing that you want to focus on is breathing in, breathing out, very gently and very naturally. Just for the last few moments, continue to sit here and just enjoy relaxing with your own breath. That's it. No need to think about anything else. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello, welcome back. So that was a pretty standard breathing meditation. Like I said, 3 steps, right? We're choosing to focus on our breath. We're noticing when our attention drifts. We're bringing it back. That's it. Now in practice, not so easy, right? And we might be saying to ourselves, whoa, my mind was a little all over the place. Of course it is. When's the last time you did this, right? This is not something that we normally do. This is not something that is familiar to us. And as a result, our mind doesn't really know what to do. Our mind's like, hey, I think I'm supposed to think about a million things. That's what I've been doing my whole life. What are you doing here? You know? So this is the type of thing that becomes a lot easier over time. Not because someone is skilled or not skilled. It's purely practice-based. It's purely familiarization. That's kind of one of the wonderful things about meditation is you all are expert meditators. Like you all do this like unintentionally sometimes, right? If we get like really in the zone with like working on something, right? We're kind of like meditating a little bit. You're all experts at it. We just have to become adept at making this normal for us, like normalizing our mind relaxing in this way, right? Cool. So, Riley, how do you know if you've done the individual practice the right way or correct? How would someone know if they did the single-pointed exercise correctly? This is a very good question. I will say that it is something that I struggled with for a very, very long time. I'm meditating for like 15 years. And for a number of years, I struggled with this, right? And I think that's because when we do something, we want to do it right. And so we are like, I want to do this right. There is a right way to meditate, and I want to do it right. And I'm going to say something that you're not going to like. There's no right way. Like you don't have to be sitting on the floor. You don't have to your mind doesn't have to never wander, right? There's kind of like a cadence that we go through, right? We make a choice to focus on something. We notice when our attention drifts. We bring it back to the best of our ability. But it is not like we did it correctly or not. You sitting down and genuinely practicing is correct, if that makes sense. And this is something that I think is a big hurdle to get over in meditation. Not analyzing if the meditation went well or you did it right. You did it, and that's that, right? And over time, this process is going to become so normalized to you, so familiar, that it'll just feel natural, and it's not really like a right or wrong thing. It's just, you're just doing it, right? But it's a really good question. It's something that I'm sure you will think about. I definitely thought about for a long time, and I encourage you to just be patient with yourself. All right, Mary, we have our own personal way of doing it. Yeah, totally. There is no perfect formula, I do that whole class. If you've been coming here for a while, we do a whole class on kind of activity-based meditations. Talk about you can turn brushing your teeth into a meditation. Now somebody might think that's not meditating. Meditating sitting on the floor with your eyes closed, right? There is no right way to meditate. It's just a formula for training your mind. That's all. Cool. Excellent. Let's move on and get inspired. So we're going to talk this week about a little bit about inspiration and then aspiration, which I didn't even know those were two different things, before I learned all this. So I don't know, maybe you knew that already. I didn't. But this is a really interesting topic. And I think inspiration is something that meditation is really uniquely qualified for, expanding what you consider to be an inspiring thought. I don't know how else to put it. I've often considered myself someone who kind of lacks inspiration. Sometimes I never knew what I wanted to be. I still, that's just kind of how I've been, and I've often thought of that as I'm not someone who gets inspired, or I'm not somebody who finds inspiration or cares about that or whatever. But something interesting about inspiration is that I think we often reserve that word for very big things, I have a spark of inspiration. I'm going to paint this painting, right? I have a spark of inspiration and I'm going to build this thing. I have a spark of inspiration and now I'm going to change my job, right? Those are, things that happen. But there's also smaller bits of inspiration that are happening all the time throughout the day. And sometimes they go unnoticed, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that, right? Rosa, hopefully it resolves. I don't know if it's me or you, but hopefully you can hear me. Andre, not easily inspired like most people, including myself. Yeah, this is not an uncommon thing, right? But one thing, thanks, Nina, I appreciate that. One thing that I really like about this topic is it made me realize that I am easily inspired. I just don't notice it, right? I'm not used to noticing it. Right? So, what is inspiration? inspiration you can think of as like a spark, right? So we see something, we hear something, we have a thought, right? A memory, or we attend a lecture, like any of these things. It can be tangible, like, reading something, reading a book and inspired by it, or even just a fleeting thought, right? It doesn't need to be this crazy lofty goal, right? It can be, that's cool, but it doesn't need to be, right? And I think a good example is, like, let's say we're walking down the street, right? I don't know why. We're just walking down the street, and then we have this thought: I haven't called my brother in a while, or friend. I haven't called my best friend in a while. That's that's inspiration, right? Like, this is a thought that has kind of spontaneously just arisen in your mind, right? I haven't talked to them in a while. I should call him, right? That is an inspirational thought. And sometimes we act on it. We're like, oh, I call my best friend. But other times, what happens? We let it pass. We talk ourselves out of it sometimes, like, they never call me. Or we just, get distracted and we lose it, right? So these little things are popping up all day long. I like to think of them as like our instincts of kindness, right? So you see somebody maybe who is presumably homeless, or is asking for help, and we have this, I should help them, right? And then sometimes we just kind of don't, or we forget. And this happens all the time. Like, nobody is immune to this type of thing. But all of these thoughts, they're actually in little inspirations, right? And if we dive even a little bit deeper, they're all mental actions, even though they result in physical actions some of the times. Inspiration is based here in our mind, right? So let's say we have that thought, or we call my brother or my friend. I don't know why I keep using this. I gotta call my brother. But we have this thought, right? It starts as a mental thought, right? It's not like we just without consciously thinking about it, pick up the phone and we're talking, right? In order to pick up the phone and have this conversation, we have to first have the thought, call friend, right? So everything we do, every physical action, necessarily is preceded by a mental action, whether it's giving somebody a hug, right? Nice physical gesture. In order to do that, we have to have the thought, hug, right? If we'd had no mental action, the physical action would just not happen ever. And so, as powerful as physical actions can be, working on recognizing these kind of sparks, these little moments of mental actions, is what is going to launch us into being able to follow through, to act on our inspirations, right? To act on our mental actions. Right? Does that make sense? I've always thought that was a really cool thing. It's a pretty big topic in meditation, because meditation is very, mind-based, and we are, generally, when we think about like doing kind things and like giving, a lot of it is very physical, and like those are wonderful things. But this is a really cool way of thinking about how your own mind is the most important thing to kind of curate, because a kind mind does kind things, right? Like a present mind notices things that are going on, right? So our mind is this catalyst for all these wonderful things that we want to do, all these little inspirations, right? So this is kind of an expanded way of looking at what we consider being inspired, So when I kind of think about, thanks, Mary, I appreciate that. Now when I think about, I think about myself, like I don't get inspired, I have to check to see if that's true, and if I consciously think about all these little thoughts that are popping up, wow, I get inspired a lot. We all get inspired a lot. We have no shortage of inspiration. The thing that we have a shortage on is recognizing that those things are inspiration, right? And not letting them pass. Right? So, mindfulness, I mentioned this in briefly in the meditation. This is a word that is everywhere. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Here comes another time. What mindfulness is an active awareness of your own thoughts for the purpose of being able to respond skillfully to those thoughts. That's what I said. That's like the definition that I use. And if we think about that definition, right, kind of monitoring our own mind so we can act on those things, respond skillfully, well, there's no better, more important way of realizing inspiration, turning inspiration into action than mindfulness. So practicing mindfulness, and good news when you're doing meditation has built-in mindfulness, right? Because you're kind of noticing when your thoughts move away, you're bringing your attention back, right? You're paying attention to what your mind's doing. Starting to build up our little mindfulness muscles, they're going to help us realize all of these beautiful thoughts, beautiful, inspiring things that we're thinking each day, and then turn them into actions. Right? Now, I mentioned that we were going to talk a little bit about aspiration too. So if inspiration is this spark, right, and we're using mindfulness to kind of build up our muscles, right, with regards to noticing, right? Inspiration is about noticing, right? Noticing. Aspiration, instead of like a spark, this is kind of like, you go to like imagine you're you're at an old tavern or something, and there's this winter and there's this warm fire. It's just endlessly warm. It won't go out, right? It's this kind of eternal kind of heat source, right? Energy source. This is aspiration, right? So inspiration is our spark. We have to notice it. And then when we notice it, we want to kind of nurture it so that it becomes this everlasting flame, right? So aspiration is less about noticing and more about familiarizing yourself with why this is important to you. Right. So I have the thought, call my brother. Right. And I have been working on mindfulness. Yay. And so I'm like, I haven't talked to him in a while. Let me do that now. So that's good. Right. That's my inspirational thought. I've had it. It's an act of kindness. I'm checking in on somebody. I'm calling somebody. I'm connecting. And I turn it into action, right? Now, I have this conversation with my brother, and it's great, and everything's wonderful. Then one of two things happens. Either another 6 months go by and I don't talk to them, or I'm like, you know what? I want to talk to them more often. Like, this is a good, this is like wonderful. I should be, this is great for both of us. Like, let's do this more often, right? So on one hand, we have inspiration that we act on, and then it kind of like goes away, right? Maybe we'll find it again. But on the other, we're starting to recognize the benefits, right? We're making a promise to ourselves to kind of follow through repeatedly on this, to make this a part of our life, right? That is aspiration. Right. So getting into a routine of calling, a loved one, like this can be one of the most kind things that you can do. It doesn't take that much, effort to, just say hi and things like that. But, we don't often think of this as like an inspiring thought to call somebody. And we don't think of it like aspirational to, maintain this calling somebody regularly. But these two terms, they're like they're buddies, and with both of them, like if we are good at recognizing inspiration, and we're also good at kind of thinking about the benefits, to the point where why wouldn't I do this? It's kind of where you want to get to with like aspiration. Like I can't possibly imagine not doing this. It's very good, right? It's very worth my time. Between those two things, like that's where we're going to start to see a lot of change, right? And not like, oh, I have a new job and like everything's great now, but like just like internal change even, right? Being able to kind of be aware of our own thoughts, to act on them, and to appreciate that each one of you, myself included, is overflowing with inspiration all day. Cool? Cool. Okay. So I'm going to do another quick meditation. It'll be kind of similar to the one we just did, though we'll throw in some things that are related to inspiration, aspiration. Cool? Okay. Take a sip of my water. So, just as before, get nice and comfy. If you're like, I thought that seat was going to be so comfortable, but it was awful, you can change. Go lay down. Do whatever you want. Go ahead and close your eyes, and I'm going to guide us through another short meditation. Okay. Once again, let's take a moment and check in. How are you feeling now? In this exact moment, we're not comparing it to anything. Before is done, only now. What's your mind feel like? Checking in is an act of mindfulness. And we now know how important mindfulness is for recognizing our own thoughts, and in particular, recognizing inspiration, spontaneous mental acts of kindness. Just take a moment, check in. Once again, having checked in, you can now turn your full attention to your breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Very gently and naturally. We're following each moment of our breath, the journey of the air, as it makes its way from the atmosphere into our body whenever we breathe in, and then exits our body, returning to the atmosphere whenever we breathe out. A moment-to-moment interest in breathing in and out gently, naturally. If you catch your mind drifting, thinking about tomorrow, something that happened earlier, whatever it is, we can just say not right now to those thoughts. We'll pick them up later. And then guide your attention back to your breath. Breathing in and out, gently, naturally. Having settled in with breathing meditation for a little bit, we can now turn our attention to this meditation on inspiration and aspirations. Just follow along and enjoy. I'd like you to bring to mind this situation. You are walking down the street. It's a beautiful day. Just imagine it. Whatever your most perfect day is. And as we're walking down the street, we see somebody sitting on a bench by themselves. And they're crying. They're upset. Maybe you've been in this situation before. When we come across this person, almost instinctively, we have this thought, right? We recognize that they're upset, and we have this thought, oh, I feel sorry for them. I wonder what's wrong. But what comes next? Do we continue walking? Go back to thinking about work or what we're going to do later for dinner? Or do we act on that thought? Turn that spontaneous mental action, that spontaneous inspirational thought of kindness into action. Let's imagine that we do that. We walk over to that person. We ask them if they're okay. Maybe it helps. Maybe it doesn't. But we turned a fleeting thought, an inspirational thought, into an act of kindness. Actually, two acts of kindness. One is the kind thought, and the second, the kind action. You never know where these types of things may lead. Maybe this individual was feeling alone and just this minor interaction helped. I don't know, maybe you become friends with this person. Your entire day is made up of countless spontaneous thoughts. Mixed in there are tons of inspirational, kind, beautiful, thought-provoking mental actions. They're happening all the time. Take a moment and think about what would it mean for you, for your day, for the person you want to be, if you always recognize those powerful, inspirational, kind thoughts. If you never let them slip. How would that benefit you? And how would that benefit the people around you? And just sit with that thought for a little while and relax. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello. So we kind of started the same way. We did a little breathing meditation to settle back in, and then we just did a little thought exercise. This is meditation. Sometimes it's called contemplation, but we are, instead of focusing single pointedly on our breath, we were focusing single pointedly on this kind of visualization, right? And the kind of idea here is to use this technique, meditation, like single pointed concentration, to think about something that is important to us, right? In this case, acting on inspiration, noticing our inspired thoughts, to gain a deep familiarity with them. So that way, the next time they pop up, maybe it's not so hard for us to kind of act on those things, right? Cool. Hopefully you found today to be relaxing, cool, thought-provoking, fun, all those things. That's the end of our class for this evening. If you did have a good time, I encourage you to come back next week. We're going to do another meditation topic. Every week we kind of focus on a different topic to kind of spread it around a little bit. So I hope to see you back here next week. Thanks to anyone who subscribed to my YouTube channel recently, ever, during this live stream. Anyone who plans to do so in the future, thank you very much. I appreciate your support. If you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. All my old videos are up there. You want to check out something on anxiety, say, you can go and do that at your own convenience, right? Lastly, if you are really into meditation, you'd like to see where it can take you, I offer one-on-one classes. They're very casual. Do them over Zoom. It's a very laid-back, good learning environment. And the best part of the one-on-ones is that we can focus on things that you really want to focus on. Maybe you're like, I'm not here for inspiration things, right? Cool. We can focus on something that you actually want to do, right? Thank you guys. You guys are the best. So if you do want to do a one-on-one, or you have any questions as you're practicing, feel free to email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat right now. It is keith@meditationbreaks.com with 0 spelling mistakes. Hopefully. Okay. That's my email. Email me if you have any questions. You want to set up a one-on-one, or just learn more about it. Shoot me an email at any time. And thank you guys. Everyone is being so wonderful as usual. You guys are literally the best. I love this community. I think it's such a positive group of people who come here each week to take a little time and relax, learn something new. And I love teaching, and I couldn't do that without you guys. So thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed today's class, and I hope to see you all next week. All right. Take care.